Hi guys, this is Jenna Trosvik down in House 6B. I will be teaching you lesson 3.6, subtracting decimals, on page 54. And this would be in the second packet that we gave you for distance learning. All right, we're going to start with number 1. We are going to be subtracting decimals. The first thing that you always need to do when subtracting decimals is we need to find our decimal and line them up. So before we can even write our problem, we need to just put a decimal in place. That's the easiest way to begin a subtraction problem of decimals. So I'm literally just going to stick my decimals down on my paper, and that gives me some space to work with. I just realized I'm going to move them down a hair. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go down here so that I have some room. So I'm going to put my 2 decimals on my paper, and then I'm going to write in my numbers, because if our decimals are not lined, we will not be able to subtract correctly. So I'm going to put 5.25, and then I'm going to say we're taking that away, taking away 4.7. Now, on this one, I lined up my decimals, which means that I'm ready to subtract, but I'm missing a number. So if you see over here, once I lined up my decimal, I no longer have a number here. So I automatically, if I have nothing there to take away, I'm just going to insert a 0 there, because if we have nothing to take away, we're just going to put nothing there, which is really 0 numerically. Okay, so that means we're going to start with always our ones place. So now that we are subtracting, we're going back to the good old-fashioned way of subtraction. It might look different than what you guys learned in Bridges, and that's okay. Your parents are a great resource if you're struggling with this. So we're always going to start in our ones place. 5 take away 0 equals 5. 2 take away 7, I cannot do. I do not have enough up here. Some of you get to a negative number, and you can do that. That's fine. As long as your decimals are still aligned, all of the methods you learned in Bridges will work. But just bear with me. So in our tens place, or our dimes, I should say, if it's money, we would have 2 take away 7. It's not possible, so we have to borrow from our neighbor. I'm going to borrow from our one wholes, I should say, our dollars, our whole dollars. And I would go and take it to 4. Once I take 1 from that column, I can add 10 to this column, and 10 plus 2 equals 12. So now I have 12 in this column. I have 12 take away 7, and that leaves me with my 5. Now, I'm going to bring my decimal down into my answer, because it's always, once they're lined up, it always stays in the same spot when we are subtracting or adding. So I'm going to bring that decimal straight down into my answer, and then I can go into my whole dollars, and I have 4 whole dollars, take away 4. That leaves me with none. So my final answer would be 0.55, or 55 hundredths. I'm going to write my answer in. All right, number 2. I'm going to automatically put my decimals in place so that I know I don't make any mistakes for alignment. That leaves me with 23 in front of my decimal, and 6, 5, and 7 after my decimal for my first number. I'm going to take away 9.83 in my second number. Any spots that we do not have a number, we're going to insert our 0 in there. Now I can subtract. So 7 take away 0 leaves me with 7 wholes. 5 take away 3 leaves me with 2. 6 take away 8 is not possible. 6 is smaller than 8 on top. If I only have 6 cookies, I cannot eat 8. It is not possible. So I have to borrow from my neighbor. My neighbor is a 3. I'm going to take 1 from them. That becomes 2. I'm going to add 10 to my 6, and it becomes 16. 16 take away 8, I get 8. My decimal always can be brought down into my answer. And then I go to my next place value. I have 2 on top, take away 9 on the bottom. It just doesn't work. So if I don't have enough to take 9 away from, I have to borrow again. I take 1 from the 2, it becomes 1. I add 10 to this 2, and it becomes 12. 12 take away 9, I now can do, and I am left with 3. And then I have 1, and I have nothing here. So again, if there's nothing to take away, we can infer that it's just a 0. So 1 take away 0 is 1. My final answer would be 13 and 827 thousandths. There we go. Okay, that one's probably one of our hardest problems in this column because it goes all the way into the thousands place. So we have a little bit more steps, but hang in there. Keep with me. All right, number 3. I'm going to automatically put my decimals in place. Sorry, guys. I'm going to start picking up my pace. I'm going to automatically put my decimals in place. I have 56.54 take away $17.92. This time we are talking about money. Realistically, the only time you're going to do subtraction like this in the real world is when we are talking about money. So yes, you will use this concept if you do anything with money in the real world. So getting change back from the store from buying something. All right, so I'm going to start with my very first column. 4 take away 2. 4 take away 2 leaves me with 2. 5 take away 9. I cannot eat 9 cookies if I only have 5, so it's not possible. So I have to go over here, borrow from my 6. My 6 becomes 5. I add 10 to my 5, and it becomes 15. 15 take away 9 leaves me with 6. I can bring my decimal down. 5 take away 7. Again, if I only have 5 cookies, I can't eat 7, so I have to borrow from my neighbor again. This guy becomes 4, and I can add 10 to 5, and it becomes 15. 15 take away 7 gets me to 8. 4 take away 1 gets me to 3. I am left with $38.62. So if I needed to spend $17.92 and I only had $56.54, what would I have left after I bought whatever that item was for $17.92? My final answer is $38.62. All right, number 4, I'm going to pick up the pace. Number 4, $294.78. Take away $80.99. So I had this much in my bank account. I spent this much on my new video game. What do I have left in my bank account? I start with my first column on the right. 8 take away 9 is not possible. So I have to take one from the 7, and it becomes 6. I add 10 to 8, and it becomes 18. 18 take away 9. Now I can do it. I have enough to take away. 18 take away 9 is 9. 6 take away 9, I cannot do again. I only have 6. I cannot take 9 away. So I have to borrow from my 4. My 4 becomes a 3. I add 10 to 6, and it becomes 16 now. 16 take away 9, and I am left with 7. Carry my decimal down. I have a decimal here, here, and now here. Now I have 3 take away nothing, 3. 9 take away 8, 1. And 2 take away nothing is 2. So after buying my video game, I have $213.79 cents in my bank account. That's what's left. All right, number 5. Now, realistically, number 5 is probably the most common. You're going to have change. So I gave them $70 in cash to pay for a $68.99 bill. So number 5, realistically, we would have a whole amount, and you would take away that amount to figure out what change you would give back. So any one of you that's going to work in retail one day, you're going to have to know how to make change and how to get it if your computer doesn't automatically do it for you, because computers do give out on us sometimes. All right, now this is also one of the hardest subtraction problems. Why? Because there's so many zeros that a lot of kids make mistakes with this one. So if I have nothing, I can't eat 9 cookies. If I have no cookies, I can't eat 9 cookies. It's not possible. I have nothing to borrow from my neighbor, and I have nothing to borrow from that neighbor. And so I have to go all the way over here. But here's the trick. If I take one from this neighbor, I can't add it to my first column. I can only add it to the column next door. So I would only be able to add 10 to the 0. So that gives me 10 in this column. I can't do anything in my first column yet. That's the trickiest part of this problem. So then I would go to taking 1 from this guy, and it becomes 8. And then I can add 10 to his next door neighbor. But still, I can't do anything in my first column. And that's the guy I really need to do something with before I can do anything else. So again, I take 1 from my 10. It becomes 9. I add 10 to 0. And now I have 10 up here in my first column. So now in my 10th place, I have, or not my 10th, sorry guys, 100th place. In my 100th place, or my pennies place, because we're talking about money. In my pennies place, I have 10 pennies now, and I can now take 9 pennies away. That leaves me with 1 penny. Now, if I go to my dimes place, I have 9 dimes, and I can take 9 dimes away, so that leaves me with 0 dimes left. I'm going to bring my decimal down from the other 2 numbers above it. Then I can go into my dollars place. I have $9. Can I take $8 away? Yes, that leaves me with $1. And then I have $60. Can I take $60 away? Yes, that leaves me with 0. So realistically, any zeros at the beginning, we know from our last unit that we don't need that 0 there. So that all we need is 1 and 0, 1. So 1.01 or $1.01 would be your change. So if you bought something for $68.99 and you gave the cashier $70, you should get $1 and a penny back. So $1.01 back. If you don't believe me, you can always work the problem backwards and add $1.01 plus $68.99 together, and you should get back to $70 if we did the math correctly. Okay, number 6. 58.6. My decimals, 58.6. Take away 9.153. All right, here's a little bit more tricky of one. We don't have anything to take from, so this time we have to insert zeros above. Make sure you put them above the correct number so you don't make any mistakes. So I have 0 take away 3. I can't do that. I have nothing to borrow from here, so I have to go all the way over to this guy. My 6 becomes a 5, and I can add 10 to this 0, but still I can do nothing in my first column. So I would then have to go back to the 10 that I just borrowed in that column and take 1 away from that 10. And now I can add 10 to my first column. So now I have 10 take away 3. I can do that. It's 7. I have 9 take away 5. It can be 4. I have 5 take away 1, which can be 4. I can bring my decimal down. Now I'm in this column. I have 8 take away 9. Ooh, we got so happy that we are keeping going that we might make a simple mistake here. Don't make the mistake. If I have 8 cookies, I can't eat 9. So I have to borrow again. And I can add 10 to the 8, and it makes it 18. Now 18 take away 9, I can do. And I am left with 9, and 4 take away nothing equals 4. So my answer for number 6 is 49.447. All right, guys, good job. I want you to go on and finish all the way to number 14 today. So number 14, you do not need to do the last column unless you think that you need more practice. do all the way to number 14 on this page, then make sure you go back to Edulastic, take a screenshot of your work and send it on to your teacher. All right, have a good day, guys.